Has it always said that to you guys? To you all? Huh, I've never heard it announce it before, but this meeting is indeed being recorded. And welcome everyone to Helicon West. We'll get started with some quick, just run-of-the-mill announcements, including where we're going to be meeting next month, which is pretty exciting. So June, July, August, we are certainly back to in-person Helicon West. So stay tuned for that. First and foremost, welcome to Helicon West. My name is Britt Allen, and I'm just the coordinator. I'm not even going to MC tonight. I'm going to kick it and love it. To keep Zoom running as smoothly as possible, please remain muted until it is your turn to read, right? To applaud for our readers, you can either click the applause hands down in your reactions button, or we can all make jazz hands at the camera in between readers. And I'm sure we can all unmute at the end and give like a really rowdy, obnoxious spaghetti bowl applause for all of our readers tonight. Awesome. Okay, our mission statement. Helicon West is a live reading series that brings published local writers to read alongside community members in an open, uncensored forum. In order to promote the voice of every community member and democratic ideals, we honor all levels of skill, ability, and craft. In addition to featuring published authors to give the literary arts more exposure in Cache Valley and its surrounding areas, we invite and celebrate aspiring writers from every walk of life to find and share their voices with us. We are committed to the causes of inclusion, accessibility, and representation in our writing community. Hiccup. I would like to thank our sponsors. We have the Bear River Heritage Area, the Logan Library, Sugar House Review, the Utah Humanities, the USU English Department, the USU Inclusion Center. If you would like to read, okay, so as far as the open mic goes, if we do have time, I will call for open mic readers at the end of the event. Traditionally, there's just so much good creative writing contest reading to be done that we haven't had time for it on these nights in the past. If we do have time, I will call for open mic readers, and at that point, we'll discuss how you sign up. Perfect. All of our Helicon West events are recorded and then posted to our Helicon West YouTube channel. If you do not wish to be recorded but would like to read, please message me. Oh, also, yeah, so you can have your camera turned off, but if you are one of our very special creative writing contest winners tonight and you don't want even your name to be recorded, for whatever your reasons are, you can message me privately using the chat function and I can just pause on the recording. That way you don't even have to worry about it. A couple quick announcements. If you would like to be on our email list to get reminders for our events, please send an email to heliconwestlogan@gmail.com. I'll copy and paste that in the chat here in just a second. You can also support Helicon West by donating at Sugar House Review. I will link that as well. Or you can purchase the Helicon West Anthology, which was a collection of the first 10 years of featured readers, and that can be found on Amazon. So I will post all these wonderful, beautiful things into the chat right now. And then, without further ado, also you all have the ability to unmute yourselves, right? So use it wisely. You don't have to wait for me or Russ to call on you and say your turn. You know, it's just open. So be careful. It's a blessing and a curse. So we're all adults, I hope. Okay, then without further ado, I will turn it over to our MC for tonight, Professor Russ Beck.
Yay, thank you all. Thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited for this event, even though it is a little bit weird. I'm so glad that it happened. And I kind of talked about this in the editor's note in the magazine itself, but Charles passed this on to me, which is great. I'm glad he went on sabbatical. And then COVID hit and I was like, oh, maybe that means that we don't do this year. And then I was like, no, we still do it. And I in the back of my head, I was always like, oh, we're not going to get enough support. It's not going to happen. And that's both horrible and okay. And I was like trying to justify it. And now I love that this magazine that we produced, I feel like we can proudly put it out there, and it doesn't even need a caveat. It's like, it's really good. It's yes, it was produced during the weirdest academic year of my entire life, but it's also just solid through and through. And it's not going to have, you're not going to be able to see a visible caveat when you look at it. And I love that. And I'm so thankful for everybody who contributed, a lot of the authors tonight that we get to hear. You made this so strong. I'm so happy with the direction that it went. And I'm so happy for the people who helped me put this together, some of which are here tonight. I'm so glad you guys are here. Thank you. Amber's here. Aaron, Tim, with Isaac, I assume is somewhere around. Oh, they're both their names are on there. So Isaac was a judge. Amber helped me be an adult, which I really needed. She was fantastic. I think Jordan is in Indiana with the person who's basically responsible for making this look as pretty as it is. So, which we'll get a chance to look at this. So, Anne, if you can hear me, thank you so much. I'm so pleased with how this came out. So, and especially all the art contributors too. This issue is just so weird and great, and weird in my house is the highest compliment we can give something. And so if that sounded a little off, it's enthusiastically weird, and I love it. It's so great. I just want to, am I allowed to share my screen, Britt? Can I do that? Okay. I want to if you haven't already seen this. Oh, it says that you've disabled it. So I don't know if you can.
Okay, yeah. Let me, multiple participants. Oh, okay. Advanced sharing options. Oh, perfect. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So, so if you haven't already, I just want to show you where to go find this. So if you go to sinkhollow.org, and then we have our new edition out now, which is also fantastic. This is the international magazine that we put out twice a year as well, which I'm also very proud of that. But if you scroll down and click to issues and go to CWC issues, I think it might even be on the front page if we just scroll down more, but this is going to be a more consistent link, I think, if you do it this way. And then if my computer can load, there we go. Okay, so this is the latest edition. Nope, just kidding, that's the issue. Okay, so this is the cover of this, which is fantastic. Bryce, what's your last name? Let me find it. Bryce Drake submitted all these weird comic strips that are just fantastic throughout the whole thing. Dara Lusk, sorry, I mispronounced her name. Dara Lusk contributed some amazing photography, and Sabrina Allen also contributed some. Here, let me show you some of this. So, so this is Madeline Thompson, who we'll get to hear from a little bit later. Thomas, sorry, I can't pronounce anybody's name tonight, apparently. So, and Andrew, and here's a photo by Andrew and a poem by Jordan. I mean, I want to physically show you this because I want to hopefully entice you to go and look at it, because it is so gorgeous. I'm so proud of it. And it feels like I'm bragging, but you have to know how much help I got. So it's not me, but I'm so happy with how this came out. There we go. So there's a photo by Sabrina. Okay, so and you can go through all of this. I want you to take some time and read through it. Tonight we're going to hear from some of the writers. Unfortunately, a lot of writers couldn't be here. One of our writers is actually in Alaska and away from civilization, or so. I don't know where she's at, or they're at. I'm jealous as hell because that sounds amazing. But yeah, anyway, but we're going to hear from a lot of you tonight, and I'm so excited for that. So we're going to just jump right in and look at, get you to hear some of these great readings. We're going to start with Jacob Taylor, who's, he won undergrad. He was in the undergrad category for fiction. We're going to hear him for a little bit. And then Stephanie, is Stephanie here, or did she have to bow out? I think she might have had to bow out. If Stephanie's here, we'll see her later. And then Snow is the person who's up in Alaska, who won't make it tonight. Chelsea as well got a new job and she won't be able to make it tonight. And then we'll hear from Hannah Lee, who won both in undergraduate poetry and nonfiction. So I think we're going to hear a little bit of both of those tonight. Is that what you're thinking? Okay, fantastic, Hannah. I'm so excited. And then we're going to hear from Jordan, who was our undergraduate poetry winner. And so we'll go to that point, and then we'll move on to the grad readers, and we'll get to that point. I don't think I'm going to interject. If you need me to, I'll have my screen up and have that schedule there. But if we can kind of just go to that point, and then I'll jump in, I think that might be the best, so you don't have to keep on seeing my sunburnt forehead and listening to me talk. So, but we'll go to that point, and then we'll jump back in. Okay, are you all okay with that? Okay, cool. I'm so excited for y'all. Let's get going. So let's start with Jacob.
Okay, so my name is Jacob Taylor. This is a piece of short fiction titled When the Lights Go Out. Just to check, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. I don't want to awkwardly read on when you can't. Okay, so here's the beginning. Russ's father continued to live like a poor man even after the life insurance money had flooded his bank account 16 years ago. Russ's mother had sold insurance before crashing into a cement divider on I-15, and although she'd barely earned enough to pay rent, she had been heavily insured. His father had allowed himself a few luxuries initially: a cherry red Ram truck, a house with 3 floors and a large backyard. However, 16 years later, he still drove that same truck despite its broken shocks and leaking oil tank. He refused to buy a new water heater or pay for the roofing to be replaced. If his father could live without it, it wasn't worth the money. Sometimes Russ wondered, am I worth the money? He asked himself that question for the very last time as he boiled a pot of water for his bath while wearing nothing but his second favorite pair of boxers. After his bath, Russ would go to his friend Jeremy's house for his birthday party. Russ hadn't had a birthday party before he'd met Jeremy in the 4th grade, at least not one he could remember. Perhaps his mother had thrown him 1 or 2 before she died, but his father didn't like birthday parties. They weren't worth the money. And so Jeremy always threw Russ a birthday party. Once steam began rising, Russ turned off the burner and carried the 8-quart pot, which he had bought himself, of course, with mitted hands to the bathtub. But after hearing a sound, the brush of sock on carpet, Russ stopped in the bathroom's doorway. Water spilled from the pot and slapped against the tile floor. Out of the corner of his eye, he could see his brother lurking at the top of the staircase. Save trips to the store, Russ's brother remained in the basement. He worked from the basement, cooked in the basement, ate in the basement. He'd bought groceries 2 days ago, so why come up today? It wasn't right. Russ dropped his pot of steaming water and ran. His bare feet slipped on the now wet floor, but he made it to the front door before his brother could. He slammed the door shut and stumbled down the steps. Only then did he realize that the lights had gone out. Muscle memory, not sight, had guided him out the door, and his muscles didn't seem to remember what the front steps felt like. His brother did not chase him. Why, Russ could only guess. Perhaps seeing his younger brother run outside wearing nothing but a pair of boxers was all that he had wanted. As Russ stood, sun-warmed concrete rubbed against his skin like sandpaper, and foreign darkness filled the sky. The sun still shone. Russ could feel its heat penetrate his bare chest, but the light was gone. He squeezed his eyes shut and opened them, but the lights remained out. Russ stepped onto the lawn and reached for the house, his hands grasping at air. He could feel the dull sting of hot water on his legs and the bite of scratches he'd accumulated on his way down the steps. I must look like shit, he thought, and suddenly, Jeremy's house was the last place he wanted to go. He didn't want Jeremy to see more injuries. After finding the place where the house's brick transitioned into vinyl siding, Russ knelt down on the damp grass and ran his fingers across the edge of the window well until he found the plastic bag he'd hung there. Inside, he kept a change of clothes, $12, a flashlight, and a compact emergency blanket. Russ pulled the jeans over his boxers, slipped the sweatshirt on, and replaced the bag. Any injuries on his arms and legs were now hidden, and Russ was satisfied. Russ made his way to the sidewalk and straddled the edge of the concrete to keep himself oriented as he walked to Jeremy's house. Ellie Maine's Paw Patrol scooter, of course, tripped him for the third time that month before he'd even reached the end of the block. When the lights went out, Russ had no way of knowing where she'd left it. Sometimes it wound up 3 blocks from her house. He always knew it was Ellie's scooter because Mr. Maine had attached a bike bell to the handlebar that rattled when he tripped over it. His fingers came back sticky with blood when he rubbed the fresh pain on the top of his foot. This is why people wear shoes, he thought. But Russ couldn't feel where he was going with shoes on. He crawled over the scooter and slumped onto his back. Sometimes the lights came on faster without the added stress of navigating darkness. Dried up grass stabbed through his sweatshirt. He felt as if he were lying on a bed of nails, like one of those turban-wearing circus performers. How long will you take today, Russ thought. Seconds, hours, days. He guessed that 5 or 6 minutes had already passed, but time always seemed to blur when the lights went out. He waved his hand through the air, and his skin tingled as a summer breeze twisted through his fingers. The sun scorched his palm, but the sky looked black instead of blue. He hated that the most. Everything looked cold, but it felt warm. It wasn't like closing his eyes. Sunlight could squeeze its way through eyelids. Okay, that's the first part, and that's all I have time for. Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jacob. I'm not supposed to jump in. I shouldn't, but thank you so much. I don't think I'm not going to be able to not do that. So thank you. That was fantastic. See, go read the rest. It's so good. Okay. Okay. Stephanie, are you okay going next if she's here? Is Stephanie here? I don't think she is. Okay. Then we're going to go down to Hannah. Are you okay going next? Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Hannah. So.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to read a couple shorter poems and then a nonfiction piece. So my name's Hannah, and this is a piece of poetry. It's called Drowned at Birth. Okay. I woke with the cup in my hand and I drank. Brown water streaks down alabaster sheets, just a drink, then into liquid weakness sank. No pause to think, to stop or contemplate. Golden ichor rolled down slow. We taught it so. I woke with the cup in my hand and I drank. Buzzing hands could weave no righteous words to thank the nurse mother, her milk that reeked and filled to the brink as I, in liquid weakness, sank. The thirst, the curse, stayed, once gorged, now sinking blank. draining oceans dry in days, throat heaving. I woke with the cup in my hand, and I drank. Ecstasy rolled in droplets, a worn escape, seaside sacrifice intoxication, just a drink, and into liquid weakness sank. Deep drunk on the tide of the moon, we make no sound. The mermaids have stopped singing now. I woke with the cup in my hand and I drank. Just a drink, then into liquid weakness sank. All right, this next piece is another piece of poetry. It's called The Haunting. I have been that young, that petrified in the wretched haunting of my childhood home. That shipwreck, that sunken memorial ground, been prodded from troubled sleep by dead hands dragging the weight of ancient hate through narrow hallways. I was raised in the thickness of that haunt that cursed men and hurled priests by their necks to their knees. We learned to sleep through the shaking, the vibration visitations that rocked our bedposts. Whatever message the dead were screaming, we could not hear past our blaring heartbeats. We left the lights on. This morning, the world split open, quaked under this house as pavement rolled and cracked. 20 years since that haunt, still, I woke searching for a ghost. Sat up in a bed shaking as it tried to hurl me to my knees. Brutal shocks crushed concrete foundations as car alarms wailed. Glass shattered, the family portrait burst across the floor. Deep below, I feel the dragging. I almost see them, those bony hands shaking stone pillars with slack jaws open wide. The dead writhe, graves joined together in pitch blackness, secret catacombs under this crust, this earth hollow, this ground a ceiling. The dead are screaming, but the ears of the living hear only the roar of their own blood blaring, and we turn the lights on. Okay, and then this last piece is the nonfiction piece. For the sake of time, I'm going to read the first 2 paragraphs for context and then the last part of it. All right, but this is nonfiction and it's called The Marina. We drove all night to get to the ocean. Our parents weren't too happy, but we had done it. The first leg of our Pacific Coast road trip was complete, a 15-hour drive from Salt Lake to California. We had over 1,500 miles ahead of us, and I had spent hours plotting the route we would take, marking every stop between Eureka, California and Portland, Oregon. After months of planning, I had stumbled across a real gem, $78 a night for an Airbnb in a boat on the Eureka Harbor. As unconventional as it was, there was still a shower, a bed, and a view of the sea. For 2 sisters with little money between them and enough supplies in the trunk to make over 30 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, it was perfect. We had slept in worse places in the name of saving money. The name of the boat was The Obsession. Captain Dobby, the owner, liked to refer to the girl as classic plastic in a fond way. She was classic, a relic from the 80s, a Catalina 38 sloop designed for the Congressional Cup race circuit, but was long since retired. His wife had reupholstered the seat cushions over a decade back, but everything else was original. It was a time capsule on the water. And then skipping down a little bit. When the cold started creeping in from the ocean, everything went quiet in the anticipation of it. I could feel it sliding across the water like a second skin, and it clinged to my wet hair as we walked to the dock. There was no brilliant sunset that night, just a gradual seeping of light. The waitress at the dock cafe eyed us levelly as she wiped off tables. 2 men nearby gripped their beers in nameless solidarity and stared out at the gray marina. I wondered if they were sailors too, if they had set out on the sea and could read the water in the sleepy harbor to understand the sea's thoughts. I could see no pattern in the swirls of gray. When we stepped back onto the swaying deck, music welcomed us. We slid back into that timeless place in the gold light and musty smell and climbed the ladder below the surface of the water and into the boat. We stayed up late into the night. If a passerby were to have looked between the gaps in the navy curtains, they would have seen one sister sitting at a small dining table surrounded by orange light and an array of paints, while the other sister sat close by. The music swirled around us, like the boat was singing to itself, and we just happened to be there by coincidence. When I was done with the painting, which was of the boat, my sister took photos of it while I boiled tea. We argued about the tea and the painting. I had already decided to leave the picture as a gift, but she wanted to keep it. I had already boiled her tea, but she didn't want it. So I took both cups and awkwardly maneuvered up the ladder to the dock in silence. That night, the moon was big in the sky, alert and full. It rose above the towers of the old houses across the harbor like a heavy specter. I remember the sharp bite of fear, seeing a figure out in the waves that looked to be, for a moment, the silhouette of a man standing upright in the water. Then it crumpled, folding in on itself, and took off into the sky with an ungraceful song. The heron came back twice, though I never saw it land. I only ever saw it take off, as if it had been summoned from the water, time and time again, in some inelegant loop. The only other sound in the harbor came from 2 docks over, where old Bessie sat still. The motor purred with a nasty rasp. The tall metal walls towered over the smaller boats around it, as if it were a castle in the water. She had been repaired multiple times with scrap metal and cords, and it seemed a miracle she was still airtight. The masthead light above the dock was on, illuminating the broken spires of breath that rose from the solitary figure on board. He huffed as he shifted large barrels across the deck, moving them from one side to the other. He talked to himself loudly, his large shoulders shaking with unrestrained laughter. We couldn't have slept if we wanted to. Even from 2 docks over, each word was clear and crude. We dimmed the music and sat below the lip, shaking in silent laughter as we listened to the sailor cuss about the woman who had squeezed his bread at Walmart because, quote, "Who the fuck squeezes a man's bread? I'm staying right here with Bessie for a fat minute. Goddamn shit, man. Not going back up there. Crazies." Of all these things, I remember most vividly sitting beside the sea when everything went silent. The mug of tea in my hands had cooled. Still, I could see the steam curling past the lip. Bessie's fog light clipped off and her purr died. The Marina was silent. Then something happened I didn't expect. The color seeped away, either dipping down into the ocean or migrating into the warmth of the land, until there was nothing left but a vast array of blues. On the lightest side of the spectrum, there was the light blue mist that wrapped itself around the moon, and the blue-silver ripple that created a shimmering pathway across the harbor toward it. But in the shadow of the boat, the holes touched the water, the deep blue dipped itself into black. It was a rare sight, a secret thing, that the sea peeled back to show. It was a holy thing, like some kind of mariner's christening. The world was at a monochromatic standpoint, broken up only by the warm flickers of orange that cut through the blue, the faint cigarette glow against the face of Bessie Sailorman, who smoked hard and fast but stayed out long after, the soft haze arching around the left side of the full moon, the 80s era orange that wandered from our tiny porthole windows where my sister laid in bed. In the silence of that navy-colored moment, it was easy to forget the other onlookers. Regardless of the monotonous heron, the sailor man, the moon, and my younger sister, I could convince myself in that moment that there was only the blue and there was only me. That night, my sister slept in the boat's coffin-style bed while I laid out on the stiff couch cushions. We left one of the lights on in the corner near the table. My breath synced in time with the rock of the boat, while I settled into that timeless place and then drifted into another. I dreamed of nothing and woke in cold solidarity.
Okay, it's very dark where I am. And do I just jump in?
Yeah,
I'm
do
so
it.
sorry.
No,
Okay,
you're good.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm telling ghost stories.
Have you found any yet? Have you found cicadas yet?
Yeah, tons.
Good. Cool.
So Anne and I
Sorry.
are in Indiana. Yeah, and we're looking. Well, Anne's doing this amazing project with cicadas, and so yeah, so that's what we're up to. And so yes, I'm currently camping, and so if I lose reception, just assume it's swallowed in the trees or something, and just like I don't know, everything's fine ultimately. Wow, this is cool. It's like ghost stories. Okay. Sweet. So yes, very exciting. Sorry, I'm just like thrown because it's like a interesting space to be doing this in. All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna read some poems tonight. I started doing this thing where I wrote odes. And writing odes is like a magic thing because it kind of gives you this wild permission to just find the absurd and the ordinary and the mundane just like magically beautiful. So I think that was kind of one of the most beautiful experiences about, I don't know, just writing all these odes. And I hope I haven't stopped for good. But anyway, I'll keep writing, I think, these odes. Anyway, I'm going to read 3 of them tonight. And this first one is called Ode to the Plum Tree Outside My Bathroom Window. I balance on the lip of the bathtub to steal a better look at your branches as I shower, which makes me wonder if we see the best things from the tips of our toes, like the green inside garden walls and that sexy Hershey's bar hidden on a top shelf. And when I was 16, the eyes of Rockwell Richardson, who kissed me even though my braces clacked against his teeth, and whom I kissed even though his tongue was a slimy little thing. And our church said no, so don't partake in passionate kissing. I am thinking of reaching into your branches, my arms naked and sudsy. I'd choose a plum fattened by summer, take a bite. The juice would run down my chin, trace my breasts, and fall into the drain, cleansing me, like the shower head now haloing my hair. The next poem I'm going to read is called Ode to the Religion I Left. And I just realized while I was reading, I should probably mention that so many of these are just inspired by Ross Gay and his voice, if you've ever read his poems. And so I just want to kind of honor that kind of lineage happening here. Just amazing. So this next poem is Ode to the Religion I Left. I haven't wanted to write you an ode. I've wanted to say nothing. In the same way I go to sleep without talking to God now. But yesterday I remembered my father and how he cried on Easter morning while leaning against our living room window and reading tissue paper verses about the cross and about the disciple who ran to the empty tomb. I remembered the way he looked at the sunrise that morning, waving his hand at me, wanting me to see all that yellow too. And then my final poem that I'm gonna read, the title's actually probably longer than the poem itself. It's a haiku. And the poem is called Ode to the Blue Heron We Watched Lift from the James River. Blue body and all that neck, loosening itself from branch and into sky. Thank you so much. It's so good to be with you all in this capacity. And thank you for all the writers that came before and are going after me. I'm so grateful to be here with y'all.
Thank you for making it so, holy cow. She's doing it from a tent. It looks, that's great. Thank you so much, Jordan. Thank you all undergrads. I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you all. Thank you so much. I just know a little bit about Jordan and I want to brag on her just a little bit for a second. I worked with Jordan on Sink Hollow, the other part of Sink Hollow. She was our nonfiction editor for a while and did just a fantastic job, like meaning that I didn't have to do anything, which means you did a fantastic job. But she's going to UNLV in their MFA starting this fall. So congratulations, and we're so excited for your next step. It's going to be fantastic. I'm sure there's other people with next steps. I just don't know about yours, and I'm sorry if I missed it. But I know Jordan because I get pizza from her establishment, and I email her every now and again for business. So yay, Jordan. Thank you so much, everybody, for reading. That was so good. Like, I didn't plan on almost crying tonight, but thanks for that. I appreciate you all so much. Okay, we're going to move into the grad readers now. And so we're going to start with Madeline Thomas, who's going to read us both fiction and poetry, which is just, I'm so excited for both of these. And then we're going to go into Andrew, and I don't know how to say your last name, I just realized, and now I'm afraid to even try. So
just drop the I, it's Romrel.
Romrel, that's what I meant. So Andrew Romrel, who won in every category that he could have, which is pretty fantastic. So fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and yeah, art too. So he pulled it all in. So I'm excited to hear from Andrew in a little bit. So we'll start with Madeline, and then we'll move into Andrew. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, everyone. So I'm Madeline, or Maddie. I go by both, but like my writer name is Madeline because reasons. But I'm going to start with two poems, and then I will read kind of the beginning section of a short story. So the first poem is called Huntress. And I have to warn you, I'm going to be looking this way because it's on my second screen, so I can make the font really big. Inside, stillness blazes. Energy like lightning forms fractals on frozen muscle. Everything I've trained myself to be quivers inside. Nothing breaks through granite skin. Behind me, his breath betrays his mortality, whispering across the back of my neck, no. The dew of pre-dawn morning pools in waves of his chestnut hair. His warmth flows like traces of spring through frozen strands. Stillness blazes. Why do Orion's words keep crawling through newfound trails of insecurity in my brain? Apollo's chariot bursts onto the horizon, first light trailing behind like his hordes of adoring maidens. Orion breathes in my face. The inner huntress flinches back. My stone extremities long for fragile, gentle strokes. Orion's calloused hand envelops mine, startling the trust of silence. Nothing about his eyes belie the predator, the all-consuming hunger that stains my memory in crimson, crimson rage, crimson blood. He waits, staring down with melting patience, begging for permission. The light grows. I nod. Tiny constellations rise on my skin, his breath of lingering wine promising elation, drunken ecstasy. Hands on my hips, he leans in. The huntress claws her way out. Okay, and poem number 2 is a very short one, and it's called Worship. Clouds melt apart, sunlight plummets, golden beams bathe barren ground. Frigid skin savors sacred light. Okay. And so my short story is called Crafted Hope. Jasper's apartment looked exactly as Margot always imagined it would, checking every box of what she knew to be true of her twin brother. Exposed concrete walls juxtapose natural wood beams, creating an intersection between industry and nature. Everything fell in straight lines, from the monochrome picture frames on the walls to the meticulously arranged slate gray pillows on the black leather couch. The only color in the room came from the wall of plants opposite his complete wall of windows, varieties that Margot couldn't begin to identify, though she recognized some from their childhood home. The rug sat in perfect alignment with a gas fireplace and marble hearth. The exposed books on floating shelves matched in size, color, and shape. Identical side tables held identical coasters. The granite counter shone and smelled of new polish. It wouldn't surprise her if he polished it whenever he did dishes to keep the illusion of newness, of sterility, of complete and total order. She reached out and carefully opened the fridge. Every container had the date he opened it written in perfect Sharpie handwriting, and nothing was expired. Greek yogurt sat beside low-fat cheese and deli turkey meat. Ground turkey, beef, and sausage laid side by side in their tubes, labels up on the bottom shelf. Fresh produce filled each drawer, fruits in one, vegetables in the other. She didn't bother looking in the freezer. Margot wandered deeper into the apartment, back towards what she assumed was his bedroom. The perfectly made bed almost stank of military precision, a detail that would make Mother proud. In her recollection, Margot's own bed had been her earliest form of resistance. Since the point her memory started, she never understood why anyone would choose to perfect blankets on a bed no one would ever see, only to unmake it a few hours later. At 14, even when Mother threatened to take away her free hours, she stopped making her bed. Eventually, Mother decided there were bigger battles to fight. Margot's propensity for sneaking out at night and skipping classes and training sessions actually threatened her future at the agency, while an unmade bed could be overlooked for her kind of talent and skill. Jasper's room showed the same neatness as his living space. Opening his closet doors revealed his clothing hung straight and ironed, from his sharp agency uniform to his casual workout gear. His black tennis shoes prompted her to check her watch. 10 more minutes. As she closed the door again, a flash of color on his bedside table caught her attention. The pit in her stomach grew when she stepped close enough to recognize the photo. their 16th birthday party. She climbed on his back just before father took the picture, and they'd both been laughing. On the day she fled, she grabbed her copy of the same picture as a last-minute thought, and it shocked her that he kept his. The agency had been thorough in destroying any photo of them together, happy and innocent. Maybe it was Jasper's version of the unmade bed. Margot turned and left through the still open door. Once back in the living room, Margot searched for the place where her presence would appear the least threatening. If she stood close to the door, he would expect an attack, but too far away would make it appear that she was lying in wait. She settled on a section of the couch facing the entrance. Jasper would see her the moment he walked in, but she'd have time to put her hands up and explain why she was there. At least she hoped for enough time. For all the hard lines of the room, once she hit the couch, she sunk. After a few minutes in the silence, her mind drifted to when she last slept. Had it been 2 nights ago or 3 more? She'd slept on the train, but that couldn't have been more than an hour. The door opened slowly. Jasper walked in. He wore his favorite brand of running shoes, an agency t-shirt, and an old pair of basketball shorts. His hair was longer than she'd ever seen it, showing their matching blonde wave even through the sweat. It took only seconds for his eyes to meet hers. He drew his gun even faster, aiming it and closing the door behind him. "Don't move, Margot." The surprise flashed in his voice even as he kept it off his face. Last time she'd seen him from this close, his facial hair grew in patches. Now it carpeted his chin, glinting ginger in the light. She raised her hands slowly into the air, showing the gloves covering her palms. "I just came to talk, Jasper." Without taking his eyes off of her, he twisted the deadbolt into place. The gun remained determinedly fixed on her as he closed the curtains across the wall, blocking most of the light from entering the room. Finally, he stopped directly in front of her, stance wide. "Why would I believe that?" Margot sighed. Although she hoped he would simply listen to her, she expected his resistance. "I'll let you do this on your own terms. Strip me of my energy, search for weapons, tie me up while I'm down, whatever you need to do. Just don't call the agency yet." Jasper's eyebrows pulled together as they always did when he faced a decision, a detail of her brother that had somehow slipped from Margot's memory. How many times had she seen that expression as they asked him moral questions in their testing to become agents? When he caught her doing something she shouldn't, as she begged him not to tell, how could he think her presence meant attack? Slowly, she moved to alleviate his fear, interlacing her fingers behind her head. She crossed her legs underneath her, so sudden movements would be difficult. She waited for him to decide. After a few seconds, he crossed the remaining distance between them. When his fingers reached her forehead, the stripping instantly began. As the energy leached away from her reserves, she couldn't help but marvel at how much faster Jasper stripped compared to their last sparring match, only a few years before. In seconds, Margot fell unconscious, and Jasper carried her body towards the kitchen.
That was awesome, Maddie. And to everyone who came before, so beautiful, all the work that's come out of the COVID time. It's really cool to see all of that and hear all of that. So hopefully you don't get tired of my voice here in a second. I'm going to try to read some of all the sections. So I'm going to read a poem, and then I'm going to read just a short section of my nonfiction piece, and then a bit of a larger section from my fiction piece. So for the poem, I'm going to read "For the Boy at a Parade." And just, in a context thing, when I was rereading these, I found all of them were actually second person based narratives, and I didn't really realize that. So it's kind of the you narrative. So you'll kind of see that flowing through all of them. But for the boy at a parade. Michael, don't be silent. Don't be afraid. Shout, scream. Vortex and a swirl of broken pens and torn pages, waterlogged and innumerable. Michael, you're okay. Your chipped mouth only feels broken because you do. Your body is beautiful. constructed piece by traumatized piece. You puzzled yourself back together. You showed up. You showed up. You looked at a stranger in the mirror and broke it. Bloody knuckles, bloody knees on bathroom tiles, you wept. You transcended your story. And through those God-graced scars you lived. You can breathe now, Michael. You don't have to hold on to air. I know you think it hurts to spread your lungs, but that's only because you don't believe the universe can fill them. You don't believe these rainbow flags stand for you, but they do. They stand for the fallen, fractured, healed. They stand for you, Michael. And those cries of joy you hear are really more like piano keys, plucking away a tune you must choose to hear. You must choose to believe. You walk alone only until you look up. Michael, are you listening? These galaxies shine pride down on you. Their signs drop sunlight on your forehead, face glistening crystal in release and liberation. I promise you'll ride this out. And when you do, this glitter, this streamer, this star-spun parade full of human dance, well, Michael, you'll find you're dancing too. This next one is I'm going to pull from kind of the middle of my nonfiction piece. It's called The Becoming, and I'm just going to read it. In a silent room with pale green wallpaper, beside a window full of dark winter sky, holding a plastic cup of sparkling juice, you sit. The room's not empty, just silent. Your friends also peer through the list, and most find themselves. They see each other. You glance around the pale green wallpapered room and find them glancing too. They meet each other's eyes, but shift quickly away from yours. They don't say much. They leave and you stay. They congratulate each other in the kitchen, and you stay silent beside the window full of dark winter sky, abandoning your sparkling juice on the coffee table. Imagine 2 weeks later, and you're standing in your high school hallway outside the door of the theater classroom, beside the bulletin board where a cast list has been stapled crookedly on the corkboard. Imagine you don't look at the list. You know it by heart now. Instead, you look through the tiny window of a door. Your friends are inside, sitting in a circle, scripts in hand. Though you can't see Miss Sauvé, you know she sits with them. You see your best friend, the one born 9 days before you, the one whose house has the pale green wallpaper. You see her smile as she reads her lines, the boy beside her laughing. Don't imagine what's so funny. You'll imagine it's about you, and that hurts more than you can bear. It's illogical anyway. You know it's illogical. You know. And the last one, the fiction piece, it's called Alchemic Like 16 Ways to Look at Transformation. Alchemy. Suppose when you were young, perhaps 10, there was a boy sitting across the classroom. Suppose you didn't notice how much you noticed him. Suppose it came to you like sand beneath waves, slowly burying your toes, inch by microscopic inch. Suppose you notice the way he moves 2 fingers across his eyebrow in some effort to smooth down the hair. Maybe he hasn't been taught yet that he isn't supposed to care about his appearance. Maybe like you, he'll one day be told it's the feminine way, a feminine trait. Not yet, but that lesson will come soon. Suppose you see him as if transparently, tempered glass, hardened. Imagine that the way you stare at him with increasing tension makes you feel unsure. Maybe he bites his lip too hard and blood covers his teeth. He raises a hand and asks to go to the bathroom. You watch him pass, gripping hands together beneath your desk as if in prayer. You don't realize it yet, but you have transformed. Mother. Pretend you're in a church. You sit there listening and not listening, hearing, never speaking. Your mother has just picked up Catholicism, though she claims this is more a study than a religion for her. Still, she is very serious about it. She's serious about a great many things: curfew, television time, schooling, politics, activism, abortion, racism, homosexuality, taking the trash out, and now religion. She's a woman of learning and research, a law professor at Columbia University, a mother who desires a son who values the same. She often takes you to her favorite cafe, the one with the floor to ceiling windows facing the Atlantic. You wonder what she thinks as she stares into that endless ocean. Is it the same thing she sees when she closes her eyes in this old stained glass church? When she bows her head, does she shift into a frame of mind different from that which she stares into the edge of the world? You wonder how much she has to shift when you throw her fine china plate across the room, the one gifted to her at a long forgotten wedding. She picks up the pieces because you were too stubborn to clean up after yourself. Does she shift into another person as she sits at the edge of the bed, pulls you close, ear to heart, and tells you people are more important than things? You are more important than things. The utter malarkey of a butterfly conservatory. When there's a moment deep in the wilds of a Walt Disney World butterfly conservatory that you find yourself wondering, why the fuck am I here? Just realize that it's not quite so existential as you'll want to think. You're not wondering why the fuck you're here on Earth, in the universe, alive at all. You're actually just wondering why the fuck you're at Disney World and there are a million rides you want to go on and a million characters you want to see, and yet you are standing in the middle of a tented butterfly garden with your mother. If you could simply realize the exaggeration, realize the extraordinary beauty of that chrysalis dangling from that leaf, you'd be able to avoid all of this, the pain and humiliation of what comes next. But you won't. And maybe that's why the fuck you're here. Halloween. Imagine when you're older, the first time you'll remember painting your face will be on October 31st of the year you turn 15. You'll remember that in an effort to hold onto some tiny fragment of your creativity, you dressed up as Dracula, an effervescent version of the vampiric lord. Your mother bought you the costume. It wasn't anything staggering in beauty. It wasn't expensive or comfortable or silk lined. It edged up your crotch and ties a bit too tight around your neck. But when you put those pointed white teeth in your mouth, feeling the bite of hard plastic against your gums, you looked in the mirror and smiled. This only made your gums hurt more, but you didn't care. The transformation was wondrous, magical. Imagine you're back to that day when your mother paints your face with intricacy. With brushes her mother bought for her before she left for college, she touches your skin. A palette sits beside you both. Smooth colors glob against a wooden board. She dips the brush and brushes your cheek, dips the brush, brushes your chin, dips the brush and slides it smooth across your eyebrow, darkening the hair. In a final touch, she paints blood dripping from the corner of your mouth. You're so excited to show everyone what you've become, you forget to look at yourself in the mirror until your mother calls you back. She wants you to see yourself first. The mirror reflects someone back at you. You recognize this person, but not fully. The point of his chin, the pale color of his eyes, the way his smile is just a little crooked. These things you know. But he's different too, transformed into a character, a made-up villain. Imagine when you stare into that mirror, you pause, wondering who's more real, the boy or the monster. Your mother holds you tight before you walk to school, and when you arrive, you're excited. Smile continues to get out into your mind. Not then, anyway. As you strut into the high school, you do so with pride. But the costume isn't why you'll remember that day. Well, perhaps it is. It's hard to know with any certainty what precisely latches your mind to that day. Perhaps it is the girl who snorts milk up her nose like some comedy show when you walk in the front door. The boy who points, who screams words you'll later forget. He screams them in laughter, then his friends join in. This laughter you'll remember viscerally, the way mouths open and shine with flat white human teeth, the way voices build and hold vibrato like a song, the way he points and doesn't stop pointing until you make it around the corner, the way his finger still feels like it's marking something hidden deep inside you. The boy who passes you a note in English as the class giggles behind you. When you glance down, you'll see a cartoon of you. You as Dracula. You without pants. You without a penis. You with the words, "Fuck me like a fag," blistered atop the paper. The girl who trips you as you sprint from the room. The teacher who helps you up and asks what is wrong. You won't tell her anything. She'll latch to your arm. You'll pull free eventually. The road with all the cars honking, swerving, screeching past your body. The memory of wanting to leap into that road with all those cars. The memory of not doing so. It's hard to know what causes the memory to linger. You only really know that you got home while your mother was still at work. You rubbed the paint from your face, tore the costume from your body, spat teeth from your faux bloodied mouth. Your mother will come home from work early that afternoon, because the school called to say you ran off. She will be mad at first. She will be scared second. She will want to know what happened. You won't be able to tell her.
Okay, all, thank you so much. Jeez, this was fantastic. I didn't expect this to be as visceral as it was tonight. Thank you all for your great readings, and I appreciate you all. This seems like a weird question, but I just want to make sure, did everybody who was, did I miss anybody? Are we okay? I think we got through the readers that are here. If I just see a lot of black screens, and I want to make sure that I didn't read somebody who isn't here. Okay, good. Then I think we're done, Britt. Thank you for letting us come and crash Helicon West. I really appreciate it. So this was fantastic. So I'll transfer the MC mantle back to you and step away. So.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you, everybody. This has always been one of my favorite nights. And I was like, we're on Zoom. Like, we've been on Zoom for a year. It's not, it's just, I have to caffeinate myself up for this, but I didn't. You all were amazing. And it was so fulfilling to just listen and enjoy and love. And I just like, would we all like to unmute and make really annoying cheering sounds at our screens? Just for the sake of obnoxiousness. Yeah? No?
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, good job.
Okay.
I'll take it. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. It was wonderful, fulfilling. I can't wait to go read the rest of it now. I'm so excited. And that link, again, I'll type it into the chat, but it's justincollo.org, right? It is .org? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So there it is. Russ showed us all how to get there. Thank you so much for emceeing. Thank you. Yes, thank you all for being here. Yes, if anyone is interested in reading, we do have time for open mic. You can stick your little virtual hand up. Or if someone wants to double dip. By the way, we will have open mic time definitely all summer long. So we meaning me, myself, and I, right? No, we should all see each other again by IRL on June 24th. I believe it's June 24th. Yes. So our next Helicon West is on June 24th, 7 p.m. at the USU amphitheater. So a beautiful place. Yes!
It's gonna be so fun.
It will be. Our featured reader that night will be Lara Stott. And to preview a little bit about her, Lara Stott is the author of 2 collections of poetry, the most recent being Blue Nude Migration, coming from Lynx House Press last year, and In the Museum of Coming and Going. Her poems can be found or are forthcoming in various publications, including Barrow Street, Sugar House Review, Western Humanities Review, Copper Nickel, and Mid-American Review. In 2020, she received an Ogden City Mayor's Award in the Arts for making a difference in the community through the literary arts in Ogden, Utah. She holds an MFA from Eastern Washington University and teaches at Weber State. So come next month, come be like in real life. It'll be a beautiful, breezy outdoor space. And then, you know, after she reads, we can all get up and read with her, because I want to hear at the end of all of your stories. Like some of you, I'm looking at Maddie, I'm looking at Andrew, have cliffhangers that I don't love, that I love, but I don't love, you know what I mean? Anyway, so if you can, it would be wonderful to see you all there. It doesn't look like.
Tell your friends, everybody, get the hell to Helicon West in June.
Yes, the hell to Helicon.
That seems like it needs to be a t-shirt slogan or something, Star, by now.
Yeah,
so,
get the
yeah.
hell to Helicon West.
It's gonna be Star's next tattoo, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're getting matching. Yeah. I'm sure Anne can do that for us.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. I don't see any hands up for the open mic, which is beautiful. I mean, I'm full. So thank you all. Again, one more round of silent Zoom applause. And next time you'll hear me.
Good night. Love you all.
Good night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks all. Good night.